We're going to learn the 14th bracha. V'yishalayim mircha barachim tashuv. Yeah, V'yishalayim means it's a continuation from the previous ones. Mashiva shavteinu v'lam al-shinim ala tzadikim. So it's sequenced. They're going one thing after the next. These are all, remember, in the collective. These are the six of the collective, not the individual. Not individual requests, for requests for Klal Yisrael. And it starts with a Shiva Shavteinu, which is the idea of clarity, to remove all types of insecurities, all types of worries and doubts and uncertainties. And once we do that, then they can move to, and so it's become clear. Once we can do that, we can get to V'lam al-shinim al tisikru, the idea of eradicating anything that's negative. Then al tzadikim, so that's a sur mirah, that's a staying away from the negative. The next is al toiv, fill it with positive, which is al tzadikim. And now we ask for Yerushalayim to be rebuilt. V'sishkom b'soicha kasher debarta, and the presence of Hashem, of the Shekhinah, should rest in Yerushalayim. So v'sishkom b'soicha kasher debarta, v'sishkom b'soicha, you should rest therein, is both a general request for the entire world, and also, and specifically, this is the idea that we should have Hasharas Shekhinah, we should have the Shekhinah rest within us. B'soicha. It's connected to, we said it's always connected to a month, it's connected to Tammuz, it's also connected to Shevet Binyamin. And Binyamin is both from the house of Rachel, so he's going to be connected to the children of Rachel. And also, Chazal tell us that Binyamin's Chelek in Eretz Yisrael, as part of Eretz Yisrael, there was a true Yotzeh that part of Beis Hamikdash was actually in the Chalka of Binyamin, part of Binyamin's tribe. Generally, Yerushalayim is L'nechkel L'Shvatim. Generally, Yerushalayim was not divided into the Shvatim. Yerushalayim was a collective space, but there was a Ritzuf of the tribe of Binyamin that included parts of the Beis Hamikdash. Why is this relevant? Because it's going to be connected to, we'll see soon, with Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. This whole tefillah is about these two ideas of Mashiach. One is Mashiach ben Yosef, one is Mashiach ben David. So we'll see how this works. There's also 25 words, which is 25 words, which 25 is Shema Yisrael Hashem al Hashem Echad. That's the same. The Zohar says that there are 25 letters in Shema Yisrael. V'ani v'anar neichal koi v'nshacham v'shuv aleichem. I will go to the place of koi. Koi is 25. To the top of the mountain. That's Shema Yisrael Hashem al Hashem Echad. And Lasa Love, they'll be returned back. V'ani v'anar v'shtacham v'shuv aleichem, they'll be returned, which is Baruch Shem Kaveh Mechus Alei Levad. So Baruch Shem Kaveh Mechus Alei Levad today has 24 letters, but the Zohar says that Lo Asalave also Baruch Shem Kaveh Mechus Alei Levad will have 25 letters, because you'll say Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, which is Yichudi, higher unity, expiration, transcendence. You get to the top of the mountain. Baruch Shem Kaveh Mechus Alei Levad means Hashem's presence is revealed in the world. Shem Kaveh Mechus Alei in the world forever, which is forever is different than one. Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad means it's only one. Leilav means that it's forever, which means it continues within time. So that's Yichud Tata, the Zohar says. Right? The Alter writes this in the beginning of Geras and Shayach Emunah, that this is the idea that it's Baruch Shem is Yichud Tata, which is lower unity. So Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad U'Baruch Shem means that we're going to recognize this Kel Deis Hashem, that both Deis are correct, Kel Deis, both Das Ali and Das Tachten, the higher unity and lower unity, which is that the lower unity doesn't dissolve into the higher unity. The lower unity is the oneness of Hashem recognized within a duality. The higher unity is to recognize there's only Hashem, there's no duality. And the highest level is that it should be a yichud between the upper and lower, which means that there should be a level of world, of lower unity, and that itself Duality will be an expression of the oneness of Hashem, because now the oneness of Hashem, Yichud, is expressed afka in infinity, in the absence of finitude. And Lasalava, Ubar Hashem Koi Mechusel Abad would be the same Adrega, the same level. That's why it's Koi V'Koi is 50. 50 is Madregas HaChamishim, the level of 50. The level of absolute freedom. Okay, so this is the structure. When you say Yerushalayim Ircha, it's clear, this idea? I mean, more or less? That at least the idea is clear. Now we have to work. I told you this is a learning process. And it says when Alter Rebbe when he had a deal on where should he go? Should he go to the Mezhebush, to Mezrich, or he should go to Vilna? So he can go to learn by the Gra, or he should go to the Magid. So he said that by the Gra he's going to learn how to learn. By the Magid he's going to learn how to daven, how to pray. Says learning I know a little bit, davening I don't know how to do, so he's going to go to Mezrich. What do you mean? What do you mean he learn how to daven? Which means that what the Magid was teaching is how you take the ideas of the mind and you live with it. That's what davening is. The laboratory to make conceptions of the mind, ideas that become transformational. So you understand something, then you daven with it. If you daven with it, it becomes real. Okay, so this is the 25, 50. Okay, so then he said v'sishkom b'soicha kasher dibarta b'soicha. So what is b'soicha? So Rashi writes at the beginning of the Torah where it says v'etz hachaim b'soicha gan, that the Eitz Chaim was in the middle, in the garden. So Rashi writes that b'soich means in the middle, in the kudah be'emtzoi. It's the middle. That's the Targum also translates that it means the middle. The Ramban also writes that it means the middle, which means the middle is the nekuda, is the point. So v'sishkam b'soicha means that since Yerushalayim, this is generally since Yerushalayim is a taber, it's like the middle point, which Chazal say that the tabur, the belly button, represents the emtsoi, the middle point, right? The Gemara says, how a person is born, how a person is created, some say metabure, which from the middle point, or meroisha, from his head, which is the beginning. So the beginning and the middle, so the tabur represents the midpoint. So that's the nekuda. The nekuda of space is the makam hamikdash. The place in the base of Hamikdash is the nekuda of space. That's why we say that the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is the essence of as an entire place of the base of Hamikdash, there was the Evan Shasiyah, Shemanu Hushlas Kol Olam Kuloi. Right? From that Evan Shasiyah, that's where all space emerges from. So space has dimensions, has over here and over there, but there's an nekuda within space, the point within the space. The point within the space is Yerushalayim, and specifically the Makam HaMikdash, the Makam HaKodesh HaKadoshim, is the nekuda of Makim. Now the nekuda of Makim, if we think about it, the point of space is the point of every single space as well. Because if you say it's the nekuda, right, it's the point of the space, so the point is here, and then it emerges into all different directions. But the point of all the directions, wherever you are in that direction, the nekuda of that space is actually the Makam HaMikdash. So the nekuda is the oimek of the depth of every single space is the Makam HaMikdash, is the place of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's why you say that eventually Eretz Yisrael will be spread throughout the entire world, which doesn't mean that the whole world will become Eretz Yisrael. It means that the nekuda would be spread out for all the pratim, for all the dimensions. Okay, that's in Makim. The same thing also in Zman, with time. There's nekuda sazman. Nekuda sazman is Yom Kippur, as Achas Bashana. The once a year, it's the singularity of the year, which is the nekuda of Zman. And then there is the nekuda of Nefesh. On the level of Nefesh is Yechidah Sheba Nefesh. Is the level of Yechidah. Yechidah is the uniqueness, the oneness, the unity. That level within the Nefesh of Adam, there's a level of Nefesh Adam which is connected to Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Chaya, which is the expansion of the person's soul. And then there's the nekuda of the person, of the Nefesh Adam, is the Yechidah Sheba Nefesh. Yechidah is the nekuda. And because it's the nekuda, because it's the point, just like in space, the nekuda includes all space, because it's the Nakuda of all space. They're saying the same thing also in Nefesh. The Nakuda of Yechida is included with all the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. Nefesh is a separate dimension. Ruach is a separate dimension. And what Nefesh is, let's like your functional consciousness. Ruach is your emotional consciousness, let's say. Neshama is your mental consciousness, let's say this. And Chai is your spiritual consciousness. So each one functions differently. Each one has its own space. What's Yechida? Yechida is your Yichudius, your particularity, your oneness, which is expressed in your Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai. You follow? In other words, how does a person connect to the Yechidah Shebenefesh? How does a person connect to the essence of their soul? When they are everything in their nefesh, ruach, and neshama chaya, when they're expressing correctly all the levels of nefesh, ruach, chaya, which means all the particularities of their nefesh, because every person's nefesh is different. Every person's ruach is different. When a person expresses their particularity and their expression, they're connecting to the yechidah, which is the uniqueness. On one hand, it's the ultimate, which is the idea of yechidah is unity, but it's the unity of your uniqueness that's yechidah liyachta, that's unique to yourself. So Yechidah Shebenefesh represents that, the Kuda as well. We don't have to call it a paradox, but that's a popular word, yeah. That's the word people go with. So that's the idea of...
It's not the matri this week in the Bear Man time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Avada.
Avada.
Which is, I think,
Tell.
also this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. God, we're going to talk about it. It's a yichud b'shem havaya and alikim. It's a yichud b'shem havaya and alikim. We're on the five different levels. Correct. We're actually going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it because Yerushalayim is called Il Elikim. Generally, in the Torah, in Tehillim, it's called Ir Elikim. But there's a pasuk that says in Yecheskel, the last pasuk of Yecheskel, V'hoyishma Havaya, that eventually the name of Yerushalayim will call the name of Hashem, which is the Yichud of Havaya Elikim. Yudke Vavke Hashem Elikim. That's it. By the way, Koisel says there he writes this. It's not from the Vemar Chaim. Yeah, it's quoted. Okay, so let's go slowly, one step at a time, and we'll start with the Bnei Yissaschar. The shtickle Bnei Yissaschar over there. Bnei Yissaschar writes like this. Talks about this Nakuda a little bit, about what is the Nakuda, what is the point of the Gula Pratius within a person. Say, Nesaska is on Tammuz and Av. Nir loymar kishiyilmud adam ezel limud veinim. When a person is learning something and he doesn't understand what he's learning, so then Yahar b'tshuva yismar al galus. Then a person should be mahar b'tshuva. He should think about to do tshuva, to repent, to be corrected, and he should yismar al galus, and he should be bitter about the exile. V'yispal al gula, and he should daven for the redemption, for the gula. Aideza tesoyer daitoi. Then through that, a person, his das is going to come back to him. His awareness, his strong awareness will come back to him. To understand what he didn't understand before. So let's say a person is trying to figure something out. You're in the middle of learning. You're trying to figure out this shtickle b'nei yissaschar. You're trying to figure this out, and it's a little cryptic. So he says you should mahar b'tshuva. You should do tshuva, and you do tshuva, and you mispal al gula. You think about the redemption. You think about the galus and the gula. The answer will come to you. So he says, how do I know this? So he says, because this is between the Zohar. It says in the Zohar, "Kitzipur nededes menakana doshchit niskar tzipur." That the Zohar says that the Shechina is called like the bird that's pushed away from its nest. So the nest will be the Beis Hamikdash, and the bird is no longer in its nest; it's pushed away. Kein ish noidim imkoimoi. So the Zohar continues, "Kein ish noidim imkoimoi do Moshe." The same thing also. This refers to Moshe Rabbeinu, who was also noidim imkoimoi, who was banished from his space. This that his ruach was in exile, was sent away.
Is that meaning that there was no physical space where his remains are?
No. It's talking about no. Oh, he's going to explain. So let's say that here we have the idea that there's idea of the Shechina is banished. This is what the Zohar says, that the Shechina is no longer in its presence in the Kant, which would be the Beis Hamikdash. It's no longer in its nest. And similar, Moshe Rabbeinu is in a state of galus, that he's no longer connected to his source. It's connected. They're connected. So he says like this: every single person that has das, that's learning, who nitzes Moshe, has a nitzes of Moshe, has a spark of Moshe. K'mayim Razal, Rabbi says Moshe Shapa Kamert. The Chazal say when one of the Tanoim is saying a nice idea, so the Amar used to say Shapa Kamert, Moshe. You said very well, which means that Moshe is the nitzes of das, of understanding, the spark of that idea. Okay. When a person doesn't understand something, doesn't understand something that's holy, it's because the goydel hagolus, because there's an exile, there's a banishment, there's an estrangement from the level of Moshe Asher B'soichai. There's a level of Moshe B'chinas Moshe that exists. That Alta Milsa Zutusi, Alta writes also in Tanya that Masham Shoyel Meimach, that the B'chinas Moshe within Kol Achav. So when that level of Moshe is in exile, then a person doesn't have understanding. So when the person davens for the gula for redemption, then the gula is also for this arach, which is the own ruach, your own spirit of Moshe, that now was distant. Then a person will understand Torah. And therefore he says, let's just read the next very, very quickly. Therefore he says, the Chazal say, whoever the Beis Hamikdash was not built in their days, as if it was destroyed in their days. What does it mean that if the Beis Hamikdash was not built in your day, it's as if it was destroyed in your day, which means that you have to take the achrayas for the fact that you have to take responsibility for the fact that the Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed. So you mean to say that every single tzaddik that ever lived since the Churban of Beis Hamikdash is a sinner because that some reason that the Beis Hamikdash was not built because of you. If your days Mashiach, the Gula didn't come and the Beis Hamikdash was not built, what does that mean? How could that be? So he says, really, no. It means a tzaddik, a person's elevated person. A person builds the Beis Hamikdash, which is the part of the Beis Hamikdash within your own consciousness, within his own soul. So, if you don't build your own inner Beis Hamikdash, that is the problem. So, if you didn't build your own Beis Hamikdash, then you should know it was destroyed in your days. You should know that if you don't understand, then that's because the Beis Hamikdash is not built in your life. So when you do tshuva, then so what is he saying? He's saying that there's an external churban, there's the external destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, but the external destruction of the Beis Hamikdash is amiktala katala, or kimcha techinta. That the Chazal say that when Nebuchadnezzar was very proud of himself that he destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, there was a Baskel that said that it was a people already that were killed, and it was like you made flour for something that was already in this trash hole that was already made into flour, which means it was already destroyed spiritually, and you just did the physical act, but you didn't destroy the Beis Hamikdash, which means that there's an inner Beis Hamikdash, there's an inner quality of Gula, and there's an outer quality of Gula. The inner quality of Gula, the inner quality of redemption is what? Is Shleimus Nishmasei. A person's neshama is complete. What is Shleimus Nishmasei? A person has correct das. Which means Moshe is the level of das. Moshe is b'chinas das. So when a person has correct das, right, then he has Gula. Then he has redemption. Which means when a person has correct das, it's nivna b'sei yom yom. That means that there is a redemption in his life. When a person doesn't have correct das, then they're living estranged from their own self because they don't have a proper awareness of self, proper awareness of the reality that's going on. And a person's not living with the proper awareness of their own selves and their own reality, then they don't. Then there's a churban Beis Hamikdash in your own. What's that?
Meaning that's Atachonin and then has.
That's correct. That goes to Atachonin. Exactly. So that's what Chazal say. Kol mish yesh ladeya. Right? We said before, the Gemara says in Satan. Which means if you have das, it's like you build a Beis Hamikdash. What does it mean if you have das? If you have proper awareness of self and of reality, and you have you have good consciousness and good awareness, that's actually built in awareness of yourself. That's the nivna beis hamikdash b'yamav. And if you're nivna beis hamikdash b'yamav, you're not estranged from yourself. So the go'oil, the das, allows you to understand. Correct. But if you don't have correct das, then you're in Golus, you're in exile. If you don't have correct das, so the reflection of that is your beis hamikdash destroyed. You don't have the correct das. That's why you don't understand. You ask yourself, why can't I understand? Because your das is in Golus. So you have to daven for the gula klolis. That's the beis hamikdash kloli. That's and then we build the beis hamikdash aprati through this own process, and through the building of the beis hamikdash aprati, you'll have das, and therefore the beis hamikdash yamav. So this is the idea of, in a very, very abstract way, but practical way, of this idea of nivna beis hamikdash b'yamav. When we ask v'lishalayim merchel berachim tashuv, like we said many, many times, v'lishalayim merchel berachim tashuv, we're not only asking for something to happen in the future tense. We're saying that we want to, just like literally what the Bnei Yissaschar are saying over here, that killing the Beis Hamikdash b'yamav doesn't mean in the future there'll be a big Beis Hamikdash. It's also that. We're talking about your own big Beis Hamikdash aprati. You say v'lishalayim merchel berachim tashuv, that in my own personal Yerushalayim, in my own place of the Beis Hamikdash, where I have my own personal inner Beis Hamikdash, that should be v'sishkom b'soicha kasher dibarta. It should be complete. There should be asharas hashchina, the resting of the Shechina in that state. If you look at the next Maramakim, it's from Yaris Vash and Yonis Maipshitz, the Rebbe of Yonis. So the beginning in Yaris Davash and Drush Aleph, he has a long lengthy discussion, and he talks about Avi Bracha, and when he speaks about the Bracha of Yerushalayim, he says the big question is, it's a pshat question, but it's an important question. What is V'chisei David? What are we asking for when we say V'chisei David Avdecha? What is that? The throne of your servant David. What is the throne? What are we talking about? Because it's very I understand what it is. Yerushalayim should be rebuilt. This should be Asharas Hashchina. We're not talking about physical buildings. It should be apartment buildings in Yerushalayim. We're talking about it should be built correctly, and it should be Asharas Hashchina in Yerushalayim. And then V'sishka B'Sarach Kasher D'Barta V'chisei David Avdecha Meir Sasmit. There should be the Chisei David Avdecha. There should be the throne of David Avdecha. What is the throne of David Avdecha? So Rabbi Pinson writes that Yerushalayim Yikara Kisei Hashem. That when it's referenced to Kisei, we're actually talking the Chisei David Avdecha. Chisei David Avdecha, we're talking about Yerushalayim. And then he says, and then Vim Ein Ani Kedai Lirs B'Binyan Tzion V'Achzor Es Malchus David. So he says, Amos HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ve'ein Lo Yerois Efes B'nei Yerushalayim Hatzmach David L'May Niskar Shemach. He says, even if I don't see it personally, I'm davening that it should be built. Maybe I won't be zoichet it, but someone else will be zoichet it. So it's a tefillah that it should happen. It doesn't happen for me; it shouldn't happen for someone else. But if you learn more, the more other previous sources, it says a little bit different. That it's actually talking about a type of building the Beis Hamikdash, which is in your own life. Okay, comes along the Arizal. This is a very famous shtickle Ari, and there's a lot of Mukabalim talk about this particular idea, and we'll see a little bit what they have to say about this. But this is the Ari, so and this is Pri Etz Chaim. Tishkoin b'milah is a Chisei David Avdecha on the bottom left column. You don't have the page. You're a listener, excellent. He's on my Rizal Moed. Our Rebbe, the Arizal, was very told us we should be very, very careful with this bracha. He told us that when we went to the sea and we went to daven on the grave of Shmai Vavtalim, which is a popular place that Reb Chaim Vital used to go constantly. And he told us like this: when you think about Chisei David Avdecha, sheyichya Mashiach ben Yosef, that Mashiach ben Yosef should live. So Asamach David Avdecha Meir Satzmiach is Mashiach ben David. But Yerushalayim Yecha Barachim Tashav Chisei David. What is the Chisei David? Chisei David refers to Mashiach ben Yosef. V'lo yamus ayidei Armilos Arasha, and he should not be killed through this character called Armilos. Armilos is a very interesting character. Who Armilos is a very big discussion who this person is. But in all descriptions from the times of the Goyim, this is the character. This is like the anti-Mashiach, the guy that's fighting Mashiach and trying to kill Mashiach. Armilos it's very hard to say what exactly this is. You know what.
No, I feel like the Lubavitch version of Armilus was right, but it's an anti-messianic.
Yeah, it's an anti-messianic. No, but Armilus actually, Armilus Hadasha, I think it has to do with Rome. That what? No, the Gemara Sukkah says the Gemara Sukkah in Nun Beis says that Mashiach ben Yosef will be killed. Yeah, before Mashiach. But who's this character Armilus? No, that's Muhammad's Gog Magog. But what's and Mashiach ben Yosef dies. But who's this Armilus? Armilus is, if you're familiar a little bit with Rome, it's not only a Roman name. Who founded Rome? The legend of Rome is founded. Excellent. So you see, this is the guy with the longest white beard. Is the one that knows. So understand what's going on? You're talking about paradoxes. This is the biggest paradox. So Armilus, I think it actually is Romanus. I think it has to do with this. That it's Chazal were saying that there's going to be a battle between eventually, which Chazal said this many times, between Bnei Yaakov and Bnei Esav, right? There's going to be a machama between, and it's Dafka Yosef. Yosef is Dafka the one, that's when the nitzis of Yosef was born, right? Was going to do Mulchama and Esav. Esav is Edom. Yeah, that of fire. Exactly. So Yosef is Dafka, specifically the one that's going to do battle with Rome. We'll see why. And Rome is considered the last Golos. So this is the Armilus on Russia is, I think, encoded reference to Rome. But anyway, it's going to be a battle. So that he says that V'lo Yomos Armilus Arasha, that Armilus will not kill him, because the Gemara says in Sukkah that Mashiach ben Yosef will be killed. V'hu nikar Kisei David Avdecha. This is called Kisei David Avdecha. The Kisei, the throne of David Avdecha, refers to Mashiach ben Yosef. The throne of David, your servant, is Mashiach ben Yosef. V'zeh soid Chaim Shal Mimcha. This is what says Chaim Shal Mimcha. The David Melech was a spell for life. Mashiach ben Yosef Lamas. This is what Dari told his Talmidim, that when you go to Shmai Vatali, you should be mechaven very strongly that Mashiach should not pass on. V'lo yevinu dvarav. We didn't understand exactly what he meant. V'Hashem yodei in the stories, and Hashem knows the secrets. The soifim mechichach telasei, and then eventually it was revealed to us Shemeis Moira Chasid Al B'Nesein Aram, that actually Darizal passed away that year, in a very young age. And Darizal was telling them that they should daven for him, basically, that they should live. And they didn't understand what he meant. And unfortunately, Darizal passed away. Look in the Hagah. We're just going to read this quickly because it's a little bit of a side note, but it's just interesting. This is from Reb Nosson Dutton Shapiro, which is the Megala Mukas, the Helik of Megala Mukas. So he says, what's Chaim Shal Mimcha? Shiraim is Hayrem is a pasuk, Ki Soife Teves Chaim Shal Mimcha Hu Melech. The last letters of Chaim Shal Mimcha is the word king. V'Rasha Tevis Lo Afreya, and then you have Mem Shin Ches. Backwards is Moshiach. So the Rasha Tevis is Melech, king, Mashiach. That's why he says Chaim Shal Mimcha. I'm asking for life. V'Nisharim Oises Amtsoyim Yud Aleph Mem. You have the middle letters, which is only from Chaim Shal Mimcha, is the Yud Aleph Mem, right? These are three-letter words, which is Yud Aleph Mem. Shuba Atbash is Mavis. And if you exchange the letters correctly, with Atbash, the first letter, the last letter, the second letter, the second to last letter, you get the word Mavis, death. Okay. What's that? Yeah.
Who he himself is going
yeah, he's also going to daven. There, Chaim Shal Mimcha, he shouldn't die. Yeah, Shalom is yeah. V'shamat V'vosim, that's La'ircham. That's David HaMelech is Masal, that the Mashiach, the Mashiach ben Yosef should daven, that he shouldn't pass on.
Was there a Kodesh Maram that he was Mashiach ben Yosef?
Yeah, that's what I think. Correct. We're going to talk about this, but that's Daria Kodesh Maram. Chaim Vital Mashiach ben Yosef. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this very... No, Reb Chaim Vital, I'm sorry. I thought you said Chaim. Reb Chaim Vital?
Was Mashiach ben David.
That's Mashiach ben David, that's correct. That's correct.
But it sounds like it's Mashiach ben David.
It's davening from Mashiach ben Yosef. I know. Look, it does. That's why.
Like davening on behalf.
On behalf, yeah. It looks like it's one mitzvah. It's one Metzias.
One covers for the other?
Yeah, on covers for the other, exactly. This is the nakuda of a little bit of Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. And the Priyat. So let's look at Shtikl Maral. The Maral has a little bit of arichas, but we'll just the nakuda of the Maral is very negaya. And we'll see if we can understand this. So there are two Mashiachs. and one, unfortunately, can die, and we have to daven that he shouldn't die, and one is Mashiach ben David. So the Maral brings down this long Gemara, and that's a Yisrael. That the long Gemara, that there's a big hesped lasalave. The Gemara says it's going to be a big mourning, and people are going to eulogize because Mashiach shanerag. One says Yitzhar shanerag or Mashiach shanerag. That Mashiach and Yosef shanerag. You have the next page, yeah. Then on the bottom of the right column it says Klal Yisrael in general are considered a full being that have 12 general body parts, yeah, which comes in Sefer Yetzirah. The Sefer Yetzirah aligns the body parts to the months of the year, and the connected Yud Beis Mazalas. That's basically what Sefer Yetzirah does. It lines up all the months connected to a different body part. Like Sivan is what? Which body part? Do you remember?
I remember which letter.
Yeah. Zion is the left leg. So Nisan is the right leg. Yeah. So there's different body parts. Every month is connected to a different body part. We're connected with a different mazel, right? It's To'imim. Sivan is To'imim, which is, yeah, Gemini. In case if you want to know the English word for the vice bird. So there's 12 each ones. There's 12 basic body parts, like real specific body parts that are very much relevant and the essence of a human being, the body. And one is the head, and one is the heart, the Rosh V'Lev. Ki Malchus Yehuda neged HaRosh. Yehuda Yal B'Rosh. Malchus Yehuda, which means Mashiach ben David, is connected to the head. V'Yosef Tamid Hu Be'emtza. Yosef is the middle. Keneged Alev. Shekenu Be'emtza. And then he brings down where we find that Yosef is the Emtza. So Yosef is the middle, represents Mashiach ben Yosef.
What does it mean in the middle?
We'll see soon. We'll see what's the middle. So one is the head, which is pushing us in a certain direction, and one is the middle, like in the middle of the body. Like it's going to be in the middle of everything. We'll see soon. Yeah. Then he says, really, this should be what? Really, this should be one king. However, that means when there's a state where Klal Yisrael is going to be in a better state, where you just have one. That's like L'Asalav, it says that even though it will be Mashiach ben Yosef, but L'Asalav, it says David HaMelech will rise with Mashiach ben David. That's like the Rosh, the head will control. But if we're not in a perfect state, then we also need the heart. So we need two types of Mashiach. We need a Mashiach that's connected to the heart, and we need a Mashiach that's going to be connected to the head. And they're going to be two different Mashiachim. Skip this page a second, and we'll go to the Rasag. We'll go back a second over here. The Rasag writes, Sadigon. So this is the first Sefer. One of the days is the first book that was written as the first Sefer that we have that's written not as a commentary to Gemara or a Sefer Halacha, but like a book of, for lack of a better word, hashkafa, philosophy, whatever, something. It's a book. It's a book that was written, and it's from the Gedolei Rishonim, the Goinim, the last of the Goinim. Reb Sadi Gaon was from the last of the Goinim. This is the 10th century, so it's over 1100 years ago from Baghdad. He was Egyptian, whatever. He was a big person. Obviously, I don't have to tell you that. And Reb Sadi Gaon wrote the Sefer called Emunah V'Deis. That's the first real Sefer that we have. That's Emunah V'Deis. Be'ez Hashem, we're actually going to learn it this summer. Mirz Hashem, if we have time. So he writes over there. It's like I told you last week. They used to write in Arabic with Hebrew letters. So if you look at the left column, you're not going to understand what it is. It's in Arabic, or else you speak Arabic. But it's Hebrew letters. So it looks like it's Lashon Kodesh, but it's not. The right column.
Not only you have to speak Arabic, you also have to be able to transliterate it.
Correct. But that's what they read. They read this way. They didn't read Arabic. They read Hebrew Arabic. So he says, "Oicham shnei hamatzavin yachid kolemer im loy nashav v'yiru mu'uris Mashiach David, im loy nashav v'yiru mu'uris Mashiach David." if we weren't if we don't do tshuva, then there's one level. But if we do im noshev and iftam mizgal on Mashiach ben David Pinson, that if we're going to be in a high madrega, then Mashiach ben Yosef ben David will come immediately. Pinson, suddenly you won't need Mashiach ben Yosef to come first. And if Mashiach ben Yosef did come, it'll be like a shliach lefanav, like a messenger that comes. It's someone that's come to open up the pathways to teach us, to allow us to get to the place of Mashiach. Is the Mashiach. And Mashiach ben David, yeah, it's a guy, exactly. Mashiach ben Yosef is someone that's going to allow us to get to Mashiach ben David. We still don't understand what this is, but this is some of the pieces over here. In the next shtickle, we're going to go back. There's another. That's from the Gra over there, right? Okay, actually, you know what? We'll go back to the Gra. We'll go back to the page before that. This is a sefer called Kol HaTor. I don't know if you're familiar with the sefer or not. It's a very controversial sefer, I should say. There's a big machlokes whether the sefer is a real sefer or not a real sefer. But most people are makabel that it is a real sefer. It's a sefer written by Reb Hillel Mishklov, apparently. It was printed by the Rivlins. It's a famous family at Yisrael. They printed it. They're from the Talmidei Agra that came to. So the Talmidei Agra, the Gra wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, didn't manage to go to Eretz Yisrael, so he sent Talmidim, the old yishuv in Eretz Yisrael. There were Chassidim and there was Masnagim. That was the two yishuv in Eretz Yisrael, the old yishuv, and they were sent in the beginning, like 1809. 1812, I don't know if you know these years. Alter Rebbe passed away Tafkuf Ayin Beis, which is 1812. So around the time when Alter Rebbe was nifter, that time, a few years before, the Gra sent Talmidei Agra, went on a mission for the Gra to go settle in Eretz Yisrael. Just like the Talmidei Amagi did this, there was a parallel thing that they also went to Eretz Yisrael to do Mesiach in Eretz Yisrael. This sefer is written, Kol HaTor, says that it's a sefer that he received from his Rebbe, from the Gra, how Mashiach is going to come. Who's Mashiach ben Yosef, how Mashiach ben David is going to come. It's a whole interesting sefer. There's a lot of, there's a sefer called, Menachem Kasher gave I don't know if you know Menachem Kasher is. Menachem Kasher wrote a whole sefer on this. It's not again. Anyways, there was a big thing, but in the sefer he writes a few interesting things. That he first writes that the Gra Shazachali is Nehur the Mashiach ben Yosef. That the Gra himself was connected to Mashiach ben Yosef. Lekabetz Goliath legalis rimzi atoy bigus in Mashiach shchenachas b'shmaya. And then that the Gra himself said, or was meramas, he hinted to the fact that he himself was Mashiach ben Yosef, and therefore he already started the kibbutz Goliath gatherings of the exiles. So which is that he sent his students to Eretz Yisrael to start doing kibbutz Goliath, right? To start gathering together. And then he says, and he said that people should actually even start going, which means they should start doing on their own. They should start going to Eretz Yisrael to start the process of kibbutz Goliath. And then if you look in Gimel, and so that's Mashiach ben Yosef. The part of Mashiach ben Yosef's job, we'll understand this more dakas, but this is the general. Part of Mashiach ben Yosef's task in this world is to gather people. It's to kabetz Nitzchei Yisrael. Physically, exactly. And then he writes, Alpi Rabbeinu Agra, im lo yizachu, taschil aschalta digula b'serus n'lotatik, Moshe b'mei koyesh b'mei b'ayisheni, b'sita d'smal l'hainav min. That if we're going to be zoicha, then we are going to embody this quality of kibbutz Goliath and do it on our own. And if not, it's going to come from outside, like Koresh, like the story of Koresh, that it was the local authorities allowed Klal Yisrael to go. That's the sitta the smaller Amidah Sadin. That's the Amidah Sadin happens. But the process, some type of sustalutata of kibbutz Nitzchei Yisrael, the ingathering of Klal Yisrael. Okay, let's go back to. This is a very obviously if you read this could be a big conversation of a lot of different. It sounds like Mashiach is also Kimi Akima. It's not the Shitz Rambam. Whatever. This is a whole other conversation. But let's just hold this. Huh? Yeah, this is very big for them. Correct. So that's why people that's why there was an era about the Sefer, because some people tied that it was put out by people that had a certain agenda. So they said the Gra supported this, but maybe it's not true. Anyways, it's the Rivlin, it's the president. Yeah, same family. Yeah, exactly. I think it's his father even. Or grandfather. Here he has there's a long piece of the Shalah. Actually, we cannot learn the whole piece. It's a very long piece of the Shalah Kaddish. But he talks about this idea of Yosef and his brothers. So Yosef and his brothers are also represent Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. Clearly, Vayigashel of Yehuda. All Chazal tell us is Vayigashel of Yehuda is Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. It's the encounter between these Mashiachim. So he says, so he has a whole arichas, and really he's trying to understand what was really the argument between the brothers. So Yosef has a dream that he's going to become a king, and the brothers are don him, and they rule that he deserves death because he's a Morid B'Malchus. He's a Morid B'Malchus, and it's treason. Who against who? Against Yehuda, because Yehuda is the brother supposed to be the king, and by him saying that he wants to be king, he's a Morid B'Malchus, and he's Nidam B'Misa. That's where they sell him, right? That's what he says in Chazal. So he wants to decide what is Machlekes. What are they arguing? Yosef says he wants to be king. He says you're not the king. What does that mean? So he says that's the difference between Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. And he says, Malchus Yosef eina elek de'elis is so la'am lahamid Malchus Yehuda. The only reason why there's Malchus Yosef is to come to establish that there should be Malchus Yehuda. V'ashvatim le'evinu was the Shvatim didn't understand that. The Shvatim thought that Yosef wanted to be Mashiach. Yosef didn't want to be Mashiach. He didn't want to be the Melech. He didn't want to be the king. He wanted to be the one, the harbinger. He wanted to be the one that ushers in Mashiach, ushers in Malchus Yehuda. But he's just the person that's to be there. Therefore, he goes into a whole thing. If you look at the bottom page, therefore, that is, he says there always. He says there's always in history. There's always in history, Yosef, Malchus Yosef, the kingdom of Yosef shows up before the kingdom of Yehuda. So the story in the Torah is when Yosef becomes the king, but the story that we have, the real story, is when the kings of Klal Yisrael begin. It starts off with Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech is from the house of Rachel, which means, so he's from the house of Rachel, which means the reason why Shaul HaMelech was a Melech was only to prepare Klal Yisrael to receive the Melucha, the kingship of David HaMelech, who's from Malchus David, and he was only there as a stepping stone. So he was there to be there as a process to get there. So it's also the same thing. Also, La'asalavi, the Pamashlishis is going to be the same thing. That in order to get to Mashiach ben David, there'll first be a Mashiach ben Yosef, and this Mashiach ben Yosef, if you go through the Shalah, is going to destroy Esav, which we said is Armilus. That's why it goes back to Armilus. It's going to destroy because sit Esav, who sit Esav, Shuafuchay. Because he took Esav took the Nachash, and Dafke Yosef is going to Shuf the Yavim Shalei Bod Mitib Rak Nitzal Alakim. So Davik Nachash Nachash Chenish Kemoini. He says I'm a Nachash. Ishraim is Isha Sadash Esav. Who a Nachash Shachak Al Yerech Esav. The Zohar says that on the thigh of Esav there was ingrained a picture of a snake. So the snake represents the Zuhuma, and Yosef is going to do Mulchama. The Mashiach ben Yosef is going to do war with Edom. Ki Mishayish Nachash Yatzop Tzefa K'moish Asa Hudla Edom. Correct. Noikatson Yosef. Okay, so this is So what does that have to do with Antiochus? Yeah, correct. Okay, so here we have another shtickle of the piece. Is that another shtickle over here? Okay, so what do we have here? That there's two ideas of Mashiach, and one is connected with Rachel and one is connected with Leah. So the basic difference between Rachel and Leah is also that the difference between Rachel and Leah is that Rachel is Yifas Toyer, Yifas Mara, which means that Rachel is Alma Dis Galia, revealed world. That's why she's revealed world. You see it, she's beautiful on the outside. When it comes to Leah, so it says Ve'ena Leah Rachos. So Leah is not connected with something that's weak, but the Targum says that Rachos means Yoim, which means beautiful. And that's what Chazal say that your boy should be Be'anah, the Gemara says that in Tainus, which is connected to the eyes. That the eye, specifically the beauty was in the eyes, which means like an inner beauty, which is more pneumius. That's why Leah is connected to Alma de Iskasia, to the hidden world. So one is what is observed immediately, what's present immediately, and one is future tense, something that's going to unfold in the future, something that's miskasa now, that's hidden now, and will become revealed in the future. It's also very much connected with the two Malchi Yisrael. That Shaul HaMelech, the king Shaul, was Mashiach Ma'avaya, which is from Rachel, is Mashiach Ma'avaya Mekolam, which when everyone saw him, they saw him as a melech. He was tall and handsome. He was head and shoulders above everybody. Literally, the phrase head and shoulder comes from the book of Shmuel, which talks about Shaul HaMelech. And then David HaMelech says, "Al tabed Mereu." You should not look to see him who's going to be the king. Because Shmuel Hanavi would think that another son of Yishai will be the melech. Because David HaMelech was the short, redhead, blue eyes. He was not going to be Mashiach. It didn't look like he's going to be Dafka the king. But Melucha Dafka goes to him because he's Alma de is Kassia, the hidden world. Correct. But correct. That's also the difference. That's connected to the Mayach and the Lev, and that's also the idea is that there are two nekudas. The 2 points over here is that one is a type of geula, a type of redemption that's connected to Golus. It's a fighting with Golus, which is like the Milchama with Armilus, and sometimes this Mashiach passes on. This is one form of Mashiach. And then there's Mashiach ben David, which is a redemption from Golus. So it's a redemption within Golus, within exile, within the place of hardship. That's why it's the Lev, which means that the Roish of the person stands outside the body, so to speak, right? That the head stands on top of the body, which means on top of the struggle. The heart is the place of the struggle. The heart is in the place. That's the metaphor. The heart stands in the middle of everything. What's going on? So the Roish, which is Mashiach ben David, represents something that pulls the heart. Basa gufa reisha azul. Basa reisha gufa azul. Yeah. So that the head, the day about if you push the body to the head, or the head to the body by Egla Rufa. Something that transcends.
But head also represents Malchus. Like, do you mean like the head from like in Chachma? Or
Yes, Chachma, Nafka Chachma. Yeah, Chachma. Something that's like detached.
Right.
Something that's connected to Ayin. Something that's higher. Reishis Chachma. Something removed that can allow things to move out of their position. Like if you have the right mindset, you could push things into a different direction. Mm-hmm. The heart is like a place of struggle. Like you obviously it's a mushal, it's a metaphor of this, but the heart is the place of struggle, which is you're fighting in this situation, and sometimes this one wins. Kishazek comes and Neifel, because then Neifels will come. This is like a constant battle, a struggle within the heart. B'cholavavcha, there's 2 hearts, and there's a constant struggle. So one is the struggle of that, and one is Libi Chalal B'kirbi. This is David HaMelech. It's Libi Chalal B'kirbi. Libi Chalal B'kirbi is I don't have a heart. It's chalal. It's empty because my heart is it's already transformed. That's the idea of roish. That's the idea of head. So head represents one thing, and the heart represents another thing. They also represent different types of tzaddikim. They represent different types of tzaddikim. That the Or Chaim HaKadosh, for example, the Or Chaim HaKadosh writes that V'shmoi Chaim, right? It's famous. The Chaim writes in Bamidbar that in Dvorim, the Chaim writes that the name of Mashiach is Chaim Shmoi. It's Chaim Shmoi. And by Pashtus, he means himself. Some people are trying to say now that it means Chaim Abalafia. Yeah, because Chaim Shalom Mimach, yeah. But Chaim Shmoi is Kipshutei, Chaim HaKadosh was Mashiach ben Yosef, no question. There's a few other hints. It's a little complicated because he said Mashiach is also to be Dafka born Eretz Yisrael, so that's why some people say it means Chaim Abalafia, which is another Mukum that lived in that time. But let's say, like the tradition is, the Messiah by Chassidim is that the Baal Shem was Mashiach ben David, and the Or Chaim HaKadosh was Mashiach ben Yosef. That's why the Gershon Kittever, one of the reasons why the Baal Shem sent the Gershon Kittever to Eretz Yisrael, this is the Messiah, is that he wanted to prepare the way that he should talk to Erechaim HaKadosh, that he should want to meet with the Baal Shem. And the sipur is that he asked the Erechaim HaKadosh that the Baal Shem wants to come see you. The Erechaim HaKadosh asked Gershon Kittever to ask his shwager, his brother-in-law, the Baal Shem, to ask him if he sees the Erechaim when he has Aliyas on the Neshama, when he has elevation, as does he see the Erechaim? And he said he does see, and every time, he said two things. First, every time I come to a room, the Erechaim already is there. This is the first thing he said. And second, when I see him, I only see the Akvayim. I see him from the bottom down, only from his heel. And the Erechaim HaKadosh said, therefore, to tell the Baal Shem not to come. It's not going to work. Whatever we're trying to do in this world, this shidduch, it's not going to work. What's kind of interesting as well is that the Baal Shem did not send Talmidim to Eretz Yisrael. In fact, the Baal Shem, I don't want to say discouraged, because that's a very strong word, but the few Sippurim that we have, some of the Talmidim Baal Shem that wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, the famous story is Baal Shem, there was once a Talmud, I forgot what the Talmud was. Harder Donker, he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, he told him to go to the mikveh, and he saw there was no luchas, he said, Vud the luchas is the message. So in measure bush. So there was an idea that not to go to Eretz Yisrael, and the Erechaim HaKadosh did an aliyah with Talmidim. He actually went with 30 families, or 30 Talmidim, that's the Messiah, and he went to Eretz Yisrael, which is very consistent later with what happened with Talmidei HaMagid, what also happened with Talmidei HaGra, where they went up with the Shtikl Chavraya. And it's all the same time period, by the way. Very, very much within 20, 30 years, everything is happening at the same time, which is that the Erechaim HaKadosh also came from Morocco with Talmidim. The Erechaim HaKadosh came, by the way, this is the Messiah also, it's a tradition, we don't know if it's true. The Erechaim HaKadosh didn't have sons, and the Erechaim, everything we have with the Erechaim is because of his limud that he used to learn with his daughters. Also, the Erechaim is buried right next to his wife, also, which is interesting, which is a messianic idea. So this is the Erechaim. So the Erechaim is practicing some type of kibbutz golius, practical kibbutz golius, gathering people, bringing them to Eretz Yisrael. The Graz gathering people and going to Eretz Yisrael. And then there's Mashiach, which is a different madrega. There's also another parallel, which is the same time period, is also, it's a whole other sugya, which is the Ramchal and the Moshe David Valley. The Ramchal, Moshe David Valley, which were big Mekubalim that lived in Italy, is that the Ramchal writes that Moshe David Valley, the Ramdu, is Mashiach ben David, and the Ramdu said that the Ramchal is Mashiach ben Yosef. Okay. Now, obviously, the Erechaim, there's a lot of people that are Mashiach ben David, which means the Nakuda is, we'll see soon, Be'ez Hashem, the Nakuda is really that it's a Nakuda. Mashiach ben Yosef is a Nakuda. It's a point. There are some people that this point is more mefutach, is more revealed, and therefore what their quality, their spiritual quality is more connected to Mashiach ben Yosef. And there's some people that is more mefutach and is more connected to Mashiach ben David. The basic difference between these two is that Mashiach ben Yosef is connected to kibbutz golius, which kibbutz golius in general is the gathering of exile, which represents is a type of relieving of tsar for Klal Yisrael in the place of Golus. Which means there's still Golus, kibbutz Golus. It's not a Schalton de Gula, even though that's what it says in Kalator, but it's not. That it's some type of, we're going to make the situation better for Yidden, to prepare the world for Mashiach. That's one type. And then Mashiach ben David is Geula. So one is a Geula within exile, within Golus, within exile, and one is a Geula out of exile. And really, the oimik of that question is are you a person that can be that your nitzvah Mashiach? Well, since every person has a nitzvah Mashiach, is this nitzvah connected? Are you a person that is connected to the past and therefore your maintenance in the present? That's one type of Jew. And then there's another type of Jew that's being pulled by the future. There are two types of people, and you need both types of people. One person is the maintenance person that says, after the Churban, let's say for example, after the Holocaust, you can see that there are two different types of tzaddikim very clearly. Some said we're going to go back and do the exact same thing we did in Europe and recreate it here in America or in Eretz Yisrael, which is like a maintenance, as a Mashiach ben Yosef type of quality. And one says, no, we're going to create something completely new, which is a Mashiach ben David type of quality. And these are two types of tzaddikim. You see, obviously, there's the Lubavitchers and Satmar. I'll say the Rebbe and Satmar is very clear. Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. It's very, very clear. There's the energy that was being revealed. One is Mashiach ben Yosef. We're going to maintain everything exactly, and we're going to do kibbutz galus in galus and make it work. And everything's going to be at least better than it was by the Churban, or we're going to try to create a new reality. We're going to think about Mashiach, about Gula, another way of thinking. Yeah, the Riyatz also Mashiach ben Yosef. Correct. Okay, let's learn a few pieces from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the Kavod Orach Chaim Yidden, and we'll see if we can get through this. God, the Chayzah, the Rebbe Lublin said that the Shamshon Astapolia was Mashiach ben Yosef. That when Shamshon Astapolia was in Don Yodin, you say the Ger Shamshon Astapolia Erev Pesach, he was killed in 1648 in Xeris Tachvatat. Yes, he was Nerag and he was burnt there. And the Chayzah said that therefore the Mashiach ben Yosef never has to die again. That was the Mashiach ben Yosef. We're Yotzim Mashiach ben Yosef that passed away. If you look in the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, he writes like this. The first stickle is, you'll see. So the first stickle is about the difference between a type of gula, which is a process, and then there's a type of gula that's achishena, that's sudden. It says there are two types of way Mashiach should come. Mashiach can come through a process, which obviously is more connected to Mashiach ben Yosef style, right? The first going to be a kibbutz galis, and then it's going to be a revelation. Or Mashiach is ba'pisim, ba'chishena. But if you look at the next shtickle, Chaim writes like this: Oidrem is darach choichem Yaakov. So the pasuk darach choichem Yaakov. This is a Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi Maisa says, and Rabbi Kiva was doish this, that darach choichem Yaakov, there was a certain star will come out of Yaakov, al Mashiach ben David. Haram is the koich of Kiddusker. It will be a star, like a shining star that paves the way, shows a new light. The Kam Shavit Yisrael. The Kam Shavit Yisrael means a shavit, someone that's like a strong man, like someone that comes with a shavit, someone comes with a stick. That means it's the one is a koichav. Look at the image. Like one is a koichav, which means like a spark that's shining. That's like it's a glimpse of something, a possibility. You see a star, and one is coming with strength. Very different qualities, right? One is Gvur, one is Chesed. Yim is Mashiach ben Ephraim. V'karbalek im yisol yil begeder shem yikroim Yaakov. Here he has a little bit of twist on this. He says, if Kalis was only derech Yaakov, then lo yaril el Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben Yaakov mulchamol r'shoyin Yaakov ben Ramelis k'mayra Chazal. Av im yisol yikulim tzadikim shem yizchuna az oisa shevet shu Mashiach haba ben Ephraim v'kam. So, in other words, the V'kam Shem Yisrael, that V'kam means that he'll survive. He'll survive. No, he'll survive. No, rewind it. He's not going to die. And that's, he says, that's what Chazal tells us. The G'dai Yisrael tells us, which is Pri Chaim, which we just learned. This is what we actually daven. So, V'chised David Avcha Meir Satzmiach. What's V'chised David? We should mechaven. He says l'shlas kivinu. I know. Weiß nicht. What does it say on the side? Does it say something?
No, it's way off by one, bro.
Yeah, no, but the side note didn't pick this up. The side on the right.
No, the side
It didn't say anything.
He's not holding.
The sound. Okay, but we saw in Pri Chaim. There's no question. It's some of the Chizad of the Avducha. Look at the next page. Shem Shmuel. No, that's not what I wanted to show you. Oh, yeah. Maybe the next page. There's always two Mashiachim that are born. Okay, one Mashiach ben Yosef, one Mashiach ben David. We're not going to go into the Shem Shmuel, but let's go to the Moed Anayim. This is in the Gael in your name, new. How is it relevant to us? So there are 2 pages in the Moranheim. So read the first one, then read the second one. The first one is just, it's a geschmack of art, but then we'll see how this is. Okay. Im bola adam eze psura teva. It's Parshat Vayetz of the Moranheim, the Shnabel says, if a person has a psura teva, has a nice, someone tells him something nice, gam b'shas limud, shemskasha al eze dover koydin shemargish hadas, nichnas by psura shemargish shemoiches nichnas by nekuda echad, you feel a certain hargasha, a certain feeling, sensation, that it makes sense. Now, it doesn't say that you actually understand, which is kind of, I think it's a diuk. It doesn't say that your mind becomes clear. You have a certain hargasha shenichas v'nekuda echad that you're going to understand it. Like sometimes you're breaking your head to understand something, and then all of a sudden there's a certain I think I'm getting to that point. I have a certain hargasha, a certain sensation that I'm getting to that place. That's a psura tova. It's a good omen, a good psura. Zen nikr b'chinas aliyah. This is Gil Aliyah. What's Gil Aliyah, Navi? Psura tova. And it's an akuda that comes out that's an akuda aliyah. And ki be'emes isha magid psura tova nistav shebechinas nitzes aliyah mamish. Ki yom avaser kol psura tova shabaylam. That you should know when a person comes to tell you psura tova, someone tells you good news, this person is a nitzutz now of Gil Aliyah Navi. So you ever ask yourself, I never had a Gil Aliyah Navi? You did? Hopefully every single day someone tells you a psura tova, then you have a Gil of Aliyah Navi. So a psura tova that Shnabla says is a bechin of Gil Aliyah Navi. What's Aliyah Navi? Obviously, you know, Aliyah Navi is Koy the Mashiach ben David, right? It's exactly. It's coming to pave the way to Mashiach ben David. Now comes the next piece of Moranheim, Parshas Pinchas. Moranheim says like this: that Kemaimer shezubin koimas Mashiach Kemaimer bal shem l'shmasem shetzorich kol adam kol echem Yisrael l'sakein u'lahavin chela koimas Mashiach hashayich l'shmasem. Every person has to establish and confirm and uplift the part of the Mashiach that's connected to his neshama. Kisha Adam, when you say Adam, who Rosh Tevis, Adam Daven the Mashiach. That the B'chinas Adam has, every single neshama has a chelik of Mashiach. That there's a nitzus of Mashiach in every single person. So let's go back. First we say very big that there's a Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, a person, and they embody the full quality of Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef. Then when we see from other tzaddikim that vertical, we see even more. We see that there were parallel people in the same generation that were Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef, which means that they had the oil, the light of that Mashiach in a much stronger way. That means that even the Or HaChaim is alive, and the Or HaChaim and the Ramchal and the Grow all alive at the same time. They all have the nitzvah of Mashiach ben Yosef at the same time, which means that by then the oil of Mashiach ben Yosef, the Nekud of oil of Mashiach, was more bizgalus, was more revealed in them than other people. That's what it means. And the third level, what the B'Shem Al Shem is that there's every single yid. As every single yid has a nitzvah of Mashiach. Now, this is why it says the Darach Chaychem Yaakov. So it said Darach Chaychem Yaakov. We learned before Darach Chaychem Yaakov is a nitzvah of Mashiach. That goes on Mashiach. But the Chazal also are Dorish that Darach Chaychem Yaakov is on Klal Yisrael. So is it Klal Yisrael? Then there's a thing that we say on Erev on Yom Tov, we say Rebbeinu Shalom. We say Rebbeinu Shalom that when you open up the Malam Mishab Tevil Tov. What do you say? V'nacha v'shein l'sei Tov. V'nacha v'ruach Hashem ruach chachma bina ruach etz gvura v'das Hashem. You say a pasuk that you say that the spirit of chachma bina of wisdom and understanding should rest on me. This pasuk is said about Mashiach, and this is the shaila from the Mukachar. The Mukachar has the shaila. In Chamisha Mamaris, yes, how could you say that when you're talking about Mashiach Haklali, you're not talking about. So what's it yourself? So the Lubavitch says, what's pshat? Pshat is that we're talking about the nitzvah Mashiach of the person. That's the nitzvah Mashiach of every single person. The nitzvah Mashiach of every single person should be mizgala, should be revealed. But what's also you see from this thing? The nachal of ruach is dafka ruach chachma avina, ruach etzav gvura. It's connected to seichel, to moichem, to roish, going back to the maral. That's Mashiach ben David. And then there's Mashiach ben Yosef, which is the hargosha. The Hargasha is the feeling. So there are two nitzutzas of Mashiach. Let's understand benafshi pnimi what this means. There's one Mashiach in the person's seichel, which is the person's the gila of Yechidish Benafesh, when a person has the level of Mashiach, the level of the geula in his life, which is a geula from Golus, Chayva Pratim. Karvan Nafshi Geula means as you bring geula close to me. Karvan Nafshi Geula, which means a person lives with a level of a redemptive consciousness. Which means instead of being stuck in all the quagmire and all the struggle, a person lives with a hechakite that is actually beyond it. That he's higher than his problem. Sometimes a person's dealing with the struggle, it's Zekam Zeneifel. This is one type of Madrega. But then a person has a higher type of living where he extricates himself, he elevates himself, that he's actually not having the struggle anymore. As Hecher, you can say, let's say for example, let's say when you're marrying off a child, right? And that you're the Simcha Gedoyla, everyone understands what this joy means. And Be'ez Hashem, who doesn't should experience it. When you're marrying off a child, if you had a child and your worst possible enemy that you really don't like steps on your foot, is walking into the same Mazel Tov to you, which you don't really want to see him, and he steps on your foot on the way, it's not going to bother you. Because at this point you're living Hecher, you're living in a higher place. Which means, emes, anything that's bothering you, any kleinigkeit, any single smallness that's really bothering you, if you live from a oimik place of Yechida, where your nefesh, where your Yechudius is really shining forth clearly, doesn't bother you. So all the kleinigkeit don't bother you. And also your machshav zaros. You tell a person, the Kotzke said that people think that it's machshav zaros, and I say it's prick of soil. What does it mean? It means because you're not conscious. If you would be about to make, I don't know, let's use this example. If you want to make money, let's say you want to make money, that's your shifa, and you're closing on $1 billion deal, $1 billion deal. Let's say you're not going to have machshav zaros. You're not going to start thinking about all this kind of shtus. You're going to be completely focused on, the Piasetzner writes that. He says that everyone says they can't control their thoughts. Yes, you could. It depends what you want to think about. He said when you're thinking about business, you totally think about it. Don't bother me. I don't want to have any machshav zaros. I want to think about closing the deal. Which means you have the koyach, you have the strength to actually go and be present and have klarkeit. The problem is, what kind of Clark are you choosing? Which means that there is a nitzvah Mashiach within every single person. We have the Clark, we have the clarity, and we have the openness, and we have the expansiveness, which we could get to. That's the Mashiach ben David within us. That's the nitzvah Mashiach, which is the Clark. Then the nitzvah Mashiach, which is Mashiach ben Yosef, is when you find yourself struggling in the lev and within the heart, and it's a Muhammad, and you can't get to the Mashiach. At least reveal the Mashiach ben Yosef, which is try to bring a little Nechama to the situation, try to alleviate the issues a little bit, say, okay, let me find a better way, let me see how I can direct if I'm angry, maybe I can direct my anger to a positive thing, maybe I can move in a better direction, which means I'm dealing with it this is B'chayav HaPrati within the Nefesh Adam, within your own consciousness, within your own soul. Now, if you're the Mashiach for somebody else, it's also Negeh, which means, if you're Mashiach ben David to someone else, which means, let's say your children, your wife, your husband, whatever it is, if you're Mashiach ben David, which means if you're the voice of reason that allows when things get out of hand and there's a lot of chaos, you're the voice, you're the redemption, you're the Bechinas Das, you're the Moshe over here that can inject a little bit of Das. Make sure that you always recognize the Nitzvah Mashiach as you as the redeemer of this situation. If everyone's in a small place and no one's getting along, there's a Nitzvah Mashiach within you that you can bring that out, and you can bring Geula Proteus to every single person that's in your vicinity, that's dealing with your life. You understand? This is the Nitzvah Mashiach outside, to draw it outside. And then there's a Nitzvah Mashiach ben Yosef outside, which is how could you help another Yid begashmias? That's what it is. We're not talking about taking away all their problems. We're not talking about giving them another way to think about life, so it elevates them in a way that they're gullus, but to help another Jew, to help another person. This is Mashiach ben Yosef is. To make the person's gullus a little bit more tolerable. That's the Badrega Mashiach ben Yosef. So now let's get back. You're davening, according to the Kavanas Ari, you're davening the Mashiach ben Yosef should not be killed by Armilas. Right? You're davening the Mashiach ben Yosef should not be died. Okay, that's a Kavanah Klolis. That the Mashiach ben Yosef is in the world. Anyone that's living in the Mashiach ben Yosef, which means the Gedol Yisrael and us, and every single person, that's the person or the people or the collective that are the Mashiach ben Davids. And certainly Mashiach ben Yosef, which means Mashiach ben Yosef, the people that are helping other people, they should have all But the Pnimius, you'll have a long life. But the Pnimius, a nafshistic level, it means that your Mashiach ben Yosef should not die. What should die? This is the nature of the way it works. When you try to help people, and you try to help them once and twice and three times, and they throw it back at you. Like the saying says, "Why do you hate me so much? I never did you a favor." And you say, "Okay, so that's it. Show my son. I have nothing to do with you. I say, what I need to be busy with other people, try to help them when they all have tinus and minus on me." So what happens is eventually you shut it down. You close it. You take a little Mashiach ben Yosef within you, and you say, "Forget it. I just can't do it." So you should daven that the Mashiach ben Yosef within you should never die. It should always be alive. You should always help other people.
What is Amidah's actually?